Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
I would love for you to begin by sharing a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Sure. My name is Rebecca Jean-Baptiste. I am a teacher. I'm a Montessori teacher at a school here locally in my city. I've been teaching for many, many years, and in the last 2 years, I decided to switch over into Montessori. I found it to be very interesting, and I just decided that that's something that I was gonna try out, and I started in 2020, and I've loved it ever since. It's just a different way of teaching. And so before Montessori, I was doing like regular teaching with like in the elementary schools and stuff. So now being a Montessori, I enjoy it. I love it so much. And so that's what I do. So that's my full-time job. And I am also I love being a mom. love being a mom. I became a mom in 2021 via IVF, and I'm excited to share my story today and a little bit about it.
Yes, absolutely. So take us back on your journey to motherhood and share with us your fertility journey.
Okay, so my journey started. So I got married in 2015, in July 2015. And in 2015, later after we got married that year, I experienced my first miscarriage. And then the following year, I experienced another miscarriage in 2016. And then my third miscarriage came in 2017. So from the time I got married until 2017, I had experienced 3 miscarriages. And after the third miscarriage, I realized that something was wrong. Like so even my OB at the time, she said, I think you need to go see a specialist after the third miscarriage, because like I could get pregnant, but I wasn't staying pregnant. All my pregnancies ended in the first trimester, in the first few weeks of pregnancy. And so she definitely thought something was going on. So she recommended me to see a fertility specialist, an endocrinologist. So I started my IVF process in January of 2018. I met my doctor at that time, and I started IVF. I did my egg retrieval. I got a lot of eggs on my first retrieval, which I was very thankful for. And they were made with my husband's sperm. My embryos were made with my husband's sperm. And from there, my embryos were frozen because I developed OHSS. It was basic, and it was, I forget what is the actual, like what the letters stand for, but basically it was where I had to give my body a break from the egg retrieval. So I had to wait because my body had been through so much with producing the eggs and the hormone shots and everything. So I had to wait to do that. And so that's why I couldn't do a natural cycle first off. And so my eggs were frozen for a while. And then after a couple of weeks went by, I was able to do my first embryo transfer. And so I did my first embryo transfer, and it didn't work. The embryo didn't even stick. So it was just, if my first embryo transfer failed, and they don't know why. And so our recommendation was, my doctor at that time recommended that I get my embryos genetically tested. And so at first I was a little apprehensive because it was expensive, but then I said, all right, I'll give it a shot. What could it hurt? And so we went through with genetic testing. And then after they were tested and all that happened, we geared up for our second embryo transfer in 2019. My first one was in 2018 and my second was in 2019. So in 2019, we did our second embryo transfer with our genetically tested embryo. And the embryo was tested normal. Everything was good. And that embryo also didn't stick. And that transfer was also a fail. And at that point, I was at a loss for words. I didn't know what to say, what to think. I was just really discouraged because we had my embryos. I had 8 of my embryos tested. I had the genders. I had 5 girls and 3 boys because they were tested and told me the genders and everything. So I was excited to do it. And then the second transfer failed. And so after my second transfer failed, I was really thinking about, okay, what do I want to do next? With my first embryo transfer, we did the same thing from the first to the second. There was no change in other than the genetic testing. And so when we were going up, so then I said, okay, let's try it for a third time. So when I went for my third, when I was talking to the nurse for my third time, they didn't really change anything. So I was like, well, I've had 2 failed embryo transfers, and it seems like you guys are not really going to change anything for the third one. So that's when I decided, okay, maybe I should look into a different doctor to get more help for myself, because my first 2 failed and there wasn't really much done differently after that. So I decided to just switch doctors altogether, which is what I did. And in March of 2020, I met my new doctor, and I call her my angel. I call her my angel because she's the reason why I'm a mom today. So I found her via social media, and me and her had our first Zoom call in March of 2020. I told her my story, everything, and off the bat, she said, okay, I want to try something different with you right off the bat. So that was really intriguing to me. I thought that was like, okay, I love that, because she heard my story, she heard what I had been through, and her first thought was, I have something new. I want to try something different with you, which is what had been wanting after my second transfer had failed. So so in 2020, after I met her, she said, I want to do the ERA test with you. Basically, that test lets your doctor know when is the best time to transfer your embryo back into you. And so she said, I want to try that with you. And I said, okay. At this point, I've already had 2 failed transfers. I'm up to try anything. I'll try anything. I will do anything to have success. At this point, I'm on board with it. And so
Can I pause
yeah.
your story to ask a question for people for their clarity?
Yes.
There's a financial cost to all of this, right? Like, you already had these eggs frozen, you already created embryos, but you still had to pay for all these transfers, right?
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay.
So basically, in Massachusetts, they fertility coverage is a mandated as a part of your insurance, your health insurance.
Oh, this is good to know. I'm happy I asked, because I wanted to make sure I clarified this, because not everybody has this flexibility. And I wanted to make sure we talked about that, because I was like, oh girl, she's spending money. Like, this is expensive. This adds up in my mind. As you were talking, I was like, oh, this adds up.
Yes.
Like, this could be very expensive for people. So yeah, I would love for you to talk a little bit more about that as you continue to share your story.
Yes, absolutely. So basically, my entire IVF was covered by my health insurance. I did pay out of pocket for the genetic testing part of it, and for the ERA test. Those 2 things were not covered by insurance. But as far as the transfers and my medications, minus like the copays, was all covered by my medical insurance. In Massachusetts, you have it's a mandate that your health insurance covers fertility coverage, that it includes that. I didn't know that until I started IVF, and that's when I found out. So that's literally what I had to pay for.
Yeah, that's such a blessing. There's not many states that mandate 100% fertility coverage. Massachusetts is one of them. Maryland is another one that I know are 100% covered. Other states, they may have like a portion, like 75 to 80%, but to have it 100% covered, for those of us who are on that struggle and don't want to pay, they need to take a job somewhere that covers it 100% and work remotely everywhere else.
Definitely.
Because think of all the transfers and rounds you would have had to do if you would have had to pay, you know, the $10,000 to $30,000, depending on what the cost is for the facility. Like, just the financial burden is such a strain on why most Black folks just aren't able to go through fertility treatments, and why you don't see us in those clinics.
Absolutely.
So I just wanted to make sure we talked about that, because I was like, oh girl, it's a lot of money. Continue with the story.
And so and I met my new doctor in March of 2020. And then over the summer in July, we did the ERA test, and she got the results back from the test. And my results were, it's been a while. But so basically, yeah, my results just show that I was post-receptive. That's what it was. I was post-receptive. So basically I had to wait a little bit more time for her to transfer the embryo. And so once we did that, I did the ERA test, and she got the results back. And so when the results came back, that's when we found out the best time to transfer the embryo. And so with that being done, we transferred my embryo in September of 2020. It was early September. And then we waited the time. And then I took a pregnancy test during a 2-week wait after, because I had to wait 9 days after the transfer. I took a test and it came back positive. And I was pregnant. And so, I was so happy and so elated, like so happy. And so I went through the entire pregnancy. I was high risk for preterm labor. And then at 20 weeks, I was found out I was high risk for preterm labor because my baby was, because my baby was so big. And so, but I got through that. No, I'm sorry. It wasn't because my baby was so big. I'm sorry. It was because my cervix was starting to open up at 20 weeks. And so because my cervix was starting to open up at 20 weeks, I was high risk for preterm labor. But my OB, because I switched over back to an OB after fertility, after the 10 weeks, I went over back to my regular OB doctor, and she carried me through the rest of the pregnancy. And at 20 weeks, we had to do a procedure to keep my cervix closed. And then that carried me all the way down to 39 weeks. And that's when I gave birth to my son. He was born at 10 pounds, 2 ounces.
Oh my gosh.
Big boy.
Oh, baby. So you ended up getting your cerclage at 20 weeks.
So I didn't get a cerclage. It was called a cervical pessary. It looks like it's like a big rubber band, and they put it around your cervix to keep it closed. I thought I was going to have to get a cerclage, but she didn't do the cerclage. It's called a cervical pessary. And it's a big, thick rubber band that they put around your uterus to keep it closed. And it kept it closed. And I made it all the way to 39 weeks in 4 days.
Actually, I've never heard of that procedure, and that's probably a little not as invasive as a cerclage, because a cerclage, they're actually doing a physical stitch in your cervix.
Yes.
So towards the end of your pregnancy, did they have to go in and remove that in order for you to dilate?
Yes. So she removed it at 36 weeks. And then from there on, because my first goal was just to get me to 36 weeks, and then we'll see where we go from there. So she took it out at 36 weeks. And then from there, she just kept monitoring me week from week. And also, like at 36, 37 weeks when she took it out, they realized that my son was big. And so that's when we talked about scheduled C-section, because he was so big. And so at 39 weeks and 4 days, I had a scheduled C-section because he was very big. He was born at 10 pounds, 2 ounces. So it was recommended that I have a C-section. And so we scheduled it at 2 days before my actual due date. I was due May 23rd. He came May 20th.
Awesome. Oh, I love it. Yes, obviously, I absolutely love your story. And I think this is a testament to trusting your gut, to, stepping out on faith and finding and doing your research and finding a doctor that's going to listen to you and hear you and try something different, especially when you had gone through, the 3 prior miscarriages and then the 2 failed transfers and losses. Like, it's just a lot of loss So to get them to say, hey, let's figure out what's that optimal window and find that out. Did they ever give you like a formal diagnosis on why you were experiencing so many miscarriages beforehand?
My fertility is unexplained. I never got a formal diagnosis of basically anything.
Mm.
So I'm not sure what caused my miscarriages or what caused my frail transfers, because it was just unexplained.
Gotcha. No, that makes sense. Was wondering if they gave you some explanation. So now, obviously you have your precious baby in hand, and you went through IVF, your transfers, all during COVID. I mean, you literally had a COVID baby.
Yes.
So I would love for you to talk about, I mean, obviously you don't know what it was like prior to COVID to actually go to the hospital and do this. So for those of us who had babies prior to COVID, you know, you actually was a lot more touch, a lot more physical. Your partner could be present. Like it was just more, you know, everybody could be there. But during COVID, you really couldn't do that. So I would love for you to talk about just your experience in the fertility clinic during COVID, because a lot of fertility clinics did shut down. And then also how your birthing experience was through COVID, because I'm sure that was not met with some unmet trauma. Like there was probably some trauma and resistance from the hospitals around family and friends and things of that nature. So I would love for you to share about that.
So during my entire pregnancy, no, my husband was not allowed to go to any appointments with me because of COVID protocols. The first time he saw our son when I was pregnant was we had to book an outside one where, you know, like the 3D, like the 4D. So we had to book that, and he was able to come there and do it because it was like non-invasive. It was through an outside company, and they were allowing the fathers to come in, but we had to wear a mask and everything. And my birthing experience was very interesting. We wasn't allowed to have a lot of visitors. It was just me and my husband in the operating room, and the visitors could only come up one at a time, and you had to wear a mask. So definitely not ideal.
No, not ideal for your first child either.
Right. Exactly.
To go through that. And that's the reason why I wanted you to talk about it, because I was everything that I thought about your husband not being able to be there. And, you know, typically you would have your support partner there. And obviously now in 2023, we've loosened in certain hospitals. I mean, obviously you're still going to be masked, but they're able to bring partners in and go through that process as well again. So I would love for you to talk about just your journey through grieving these losses, grieving these failed transfers, and then now you have this baby in hand, right? Like, so how has that process been? Because what we also don't also necessarily talk about is that when we get to the other side of fertility and the other side of what, you know, of parenthood, because I would say you always were a mother, right? But now you're a parent because you have this baby physically here. How has that journey been, grieving the losses, but also finding joy in this new parenthood journey?
Well, you know, it's been very interesting because with my son, it's been a lot. Cause like, I do think about the other pregnancies that I've had. I had my son at 36. So I feel like I lost 2 years trying with the first 2 transfers. I wish I had met my current doctor 2 years prior. Then I could have had 2, maybe 3 by now. And so I definitely feel like grieving those losses. I grieve those losses because I felt like I lost time and babies. And so I wish I could get that. If I could go back, I would have met my doctor 2 years prior and probably wouldn't have had to not gone through what I went through with just the beginning failed transfers. So I do grieve those babies that I did lose in the very beginning of IVF. And I wish I had met my doctor that I'm with now sooner, to maybe like not having, I still could have had failed transfers, but I feel like I just would have had a better shot.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I completely understand that and definitely empathize with you on that. I would love for you to talk about just your journey now. Obviously you have an amazing fertility doctor, and Do you still have other embryos that are frozen? You still have
Yes,
frozen eggs? Like, is the
I have.
plan to continue to grow your family? What does that next step in your journey look like?
Next step is it's very interesting. So that you asked, I have a lot of embryos left over. I have a lot. We have 19 left over. We have out of those 19, we have 7 that have already been genetically tested normal. So I have a lot of embryos left over. The next step is two things is to try again. I'm going to be trying again very soon to give my son a sibling. And then after that, figuring out what I'm going to do with the rest of my embryos, because I have so many.
I know. And I was going to ask you that. Have you ever thought of, I mean, obviously, you've been in this fertility world of how hard it is for Black families to find donor eggs, but also donor embryos. Have you ever thought of
I have
selling your embryos? I know it's kind of crazy to think about, but
yeah.
is it something that you and your husband actually have talked about? Especially, you just don't want to discard them because, yes, it will be your DNA out in the world, but for other families who may be struggling on the journey.
We have discussed it some. I have considered it. I am following a page on social media that talks that families are dealing with that. Families are like on that page and they're looking for embryos, and African American embryos are very, very hard to find. I'm African American and my husband's Haitian, so we're definitely, those embryos are really, really hard to find. So we have considered it. It's it's a tough decision to make. I haven't made that decision yet because I want to be done with having children altogether first before I consider that route, or even like dive more into that. And so right now that's kind of on pause until we can figure out what we want to do with them as far as us having children. And so I know I want to have one more, and I'm going to be doing another transfer very soon in the hopes of giving my son a sibling, and prayerfully it'll work the first go around. So I'm currently working with my doctor right now. I'm getting my body ready.
So how do you do that? How do you prepare your body for another transfer?
Eating, like changing my eating habits, exercise, staying, like drinking more water, getting my mind right, getting like even like my mind mentally, physically, my body physically and my mind mentally prepared for this again, for not just for pregnancy, but for the medications that's going to come with it as well, because I'm starting all over again. My protocol next go around is going to look a little different. It's not going to include the PIO shots, because my doctor wants to try a different protocol with me this time. So I'm interested to see how this protocol is going to help. And so me as well. With my son, everything was controlled. With my next cycle, she wants to do a more of a frozen natural cycle. So it's a brand new cycle for me that she wants to try, which will just include the endometrium suppositories, but not the PIO shots. So I'm very curious as to how that'll work out for me. With my son, I did both. And so, but because I trust her in her judgments and everything, I said to her, whatever you recommend or suggest, I'm willing to try. Definitely, and so I was telling you, like in the beginning, how I call her my angel, because she's done so much for me, with me, and for my family. She's the reason why I'm a mom, and being able just to take my son back to see her when he was a few months old, she had tears in her eyes. That's the joy that they get helping, that they get to help bring babies into families. And so I'm definitely excited for the next step, and that's going to be my next step right now. And then in the future, when we're done with having children, we will definitely revisit donor embryos and all those things that come with that.
Which is amazing. I just want to let you know that whatever you and your husband decide to do with it, I just know that it is going to be a blessing, however you all do it, because that's a blessing in general, just to be able to produce as much and to have so many made, especially if you heard other people's stories on how they've gone through and extracted so many eggs, but still didn't have viable embryos. So
Yeah,
such a blessing, such a blessing.
It really is a blessing, to be able to bless someone else, because even the embryos that I have genetically tested, we have 7 left over. We have 6 girls and a boy, because we started out with 8 and I used 2 boys already. One of the boys didn't go through, and then the second boy is my son. So we have 6 left over, and we have 5 girls and a boy. And I'm pretty sure I won't be having 6 kids. So even to offer those that are already been
genetically tested. Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
It takes a lot of the guessing work out of it.
It does. And it's a blessing overall. I just want to already commend you all, because it's a blessing to get to this place where now you're preparing yourself to, definitely grow your family, but to have that offering to the world. So I'm excited to continue to watch your journey, to follow you, to see how, your babies grow up. I think when we get, like I said, when we get to the other side of fertility and motherhood and parenthood, it's like, it does not go away, but we understand the importance of the journey and the reason why we continue to share our stories, because we want people to know that that look like us, to let us know that they're not alone. Like, we've all been through some struggle to get to where we are. So I would love for you to leave our listeners just with some encouraging words as they navigate through their own journeys, those who may be out there who have maybe had failed transfers, who are in the journey of trying to conceive right now, because I think that everyone's at a different stage in their journey.
Yeah.
What are some encouraging words can you leave with our listeners as they navigate through their journey?
So what I would say definitely is that, trust in yourself, believe in yourself, know that this journey comes with highs and it comes with lows, but at the end of the day, it will happen for you. And it will. And that I'm a firm believer in Christ and Jesus Christ, and my faith has gotten me through a lot of this journey. So one of the biggest things that I, when I encourage other women is like, have faith that, that God will just make this happen for you in his time, and just the fact that this journey is hard, but you are in this journey, you are on this journey for a reason, and there's and there's a plan and there's a purpose for you while on this journey. And I just want to encourage other women, like, even hearing and just listening to my story, because I was in the same place where I was, in a low place and discouraged, but my faith in God kept me. My family and friends encouraged me. So I would just say, like, stay encouraged. Know that you're not alone, which was big for me. It was such a big thing for me, knowing that I wasn't alone, because for the longest time, I didn't know the African-American community even struggled with infertility until I met other women like myself. So know that you're not alone on this journey. There are other women in here with you and here to love on you, myself included, and I'm always available to talk and to share my story, to just encourage and love on anyone that needs it, because I needed it. And when I needed it, I had someone there for me. And so I hope that I can be a source of encouragement for all the women that will hear this podcast.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story and your light with us. Where can listeners connect with you after this episode?
So I'm on Instagram, and my Instagram is, sorry, I'm looking at yes. So let me go here 1 second. On my Instagram, I am Beck, BECK JD _0220. That's my Instagram. And a lot of my fertility journey things on my Instagram. My son is on there, and I've shared videos and pictures of my journey, of my family, to just encourage other ladies like myself.
Love it. Love it. Well, thank you so much. You all definitely, I will make sure all her information's down in the description box and show notes so you can give her a follow. And we are excited about this new blessing that God's going to bless you with and what else that you all do as you navigate through your parenthood journey. So thank you again.
Thank you so much. It was so nice to see you and meet you.
Yes, absolutely. All right. We got you recorded.